Hey, it's good to see ya. It's been a while. So, I'm a bit peeved because yesterday I filmed this whole Q&A and I filmed it for a long time. The whole filming session was about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then I returned to my computer only to find that 40 minutes of the actual filming had saved. I was using, and still am, my 3DO as a separate microphone. So I have the audio for that, but I'm just going to go ahead and refilm it because I feel like you guys deserve to see me as well in this. Just because this video is mostly about me, and why not be able to see me and all my nonsense? Yeah. So, without further ado, I think I'm going to split this one into a few separate parts based on how I sorted the questions, just to make sure that I don't lose all that filming again, because that is annoying. So, section 1. This is the section about my ASMR content specifically, and certain requests that people asked in that. So I'll go through that real quick. This one should be pretty short. Someone asked if there is anything that you guys can do for me to support me in this time or whatever, and just be patient. Honestly, I go through a lot of changing in my own life and personal growth and things, just because that's kind of what I enjoy doing. And this is great. This is the way I choose to live my life, but it also can be very challenging at times, and sometimes it's more challenging than others to get regular content out. And more than anything, I just appreciate you being patient with me, and especially all the kind words and the loving things that people share with me. It's all greatly appreciated, and I can't say that enough. But there isn't really anything specific you can do, and that's probably the way it should be. So, someone asked if I could try ear eating ASMR, and they told me where I would find an example of that. And I looked it up, and I'm not entirely sure what she's doing. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't even sound like something that would really make a difference if it was done by me versus done by her. So for now, I would just say stick with her as doing it. I'm going to kind of do my own thing. But even if I was interested in doing it, I don't even know what's going on. Someone asked if I would do literature or any sort of page turning, reading, anything. And that question is actually what inspired my last video, because so many things are in the editing stage that it was taking a long time, and I was like, I should just put something simple out. And that question was like, oh, I could do this. And so I did that. So the answer is no, I won't do that. Sorry. Just kidding. Can I do more ear licking? Yes, that's that along with the boyfriend role plays are probably my most requested theme. So you can expect more of those. I mean, I put out the boyfriend one since I've filmed this, or before I filmed it, and I have another one with the twins in the works. It's in editing. I still need to record some of it, but it's along, so just wait for it. Are you ever going to make visual ASMR again? I'm assuming by that you mean just with film, with video, with showing myself. And it's a lot more challenging for me to work with film than it is with audio, just because that's not quite my forte. So I probably won't do it often, but maybe every once in a while, or every just rare moment. I had some ideas that I wanted to do, but I mean, clearly I haven't done them, so they're not super high on my priority list. But it's not off limits. I kind of want to get a better camera. I sold the camera that I used for the first one because it just wasn't really working for my needs. It was an action cam, and filming ASMR with an action cam is kind of silly because it's the opposite of action, but it sort of worked. How about making a Draw My Life ASMR? Those are the ones where they just draw with a whiteboard, isn't it? Just kind of narrate what happened in their life. I don't really know exactly what that is or how that started or what. So but I don't have a whiteboard and I'm not much of an artist, so I don't know if I should do that myself. Plus my life's not that interesting, but I bet everyone says that. Will I be having the twins back? Yes, I mentioned that. Can you do ASMR with the ukulele? I don't exactly know what I would do with that. I actually I keep a list of my ideas of things that I want to make, and one of them was just having, I don't remember if I was going to have sort of a monologue just about the idea or just incorporate music somehow within it. But I did intend to bring the ukulele out and just play a little song at the end of a video or something, but I never did that. You're aware of that probably. If you could be more specific onto something that you would actually like to see done, that would be much easier for me to consider. Can I make another audio similar to Pep Talk ASMR? I'd probably like to do that. I enjoy sharing this pseudo-philosophy and just interesting thoughts that I've come across. And I did really like to make that video, and the message that it shares, I think it's a positive message, so I would probably like to do something like that again. But that specific video was something that was very off the top of my head. It was very... it wasn't improv. I didn't improvise the video itself, but the idea just came to me, and then from there I went with that. So it wasn't something that was very premeditated. So as far as scripting another one in the same vein, it might be a little more challenging, but it depends. We'll see what comes up in my head. Will I be doing any more boyfriend role plays? Not for a little bit, because you just got one. But that question was before it came out, so I understand. I do have an idea for a third one, for at least part of a third one, but again, I'm going to work on some other stuff before I get back to that. What's been your favorite style of video that you've done? I'd say that one would be Hatch, to be honest. Hatch was one of the first ideas that I had when I started this channel, and I started working on it, and then I hit a point to where I didn't know I knew what to do next, but I didn't know how to do it. So I kind of stopped, and then I forgot about it for almost a year. And I stumbled upon the folder again, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about this. Let's finish this. And it was kind of cool, because after working on so many other things in that interim period, I could do a better job. I knew what I was doing more, and I was able to finish the project at a much higher caliber of quality than if I had just pushed through it and figured it out way back when. But I really liked the video itself. I thought it was a unique idea, and the sounds itself don't really do it for me, so I think I put that in the description too, and I linked to a version without the sound effects. And that's more my speed. That's something that I enjoy a lot more. I just like being, kind of the feeling of being immersed in so many different environments, and kind of, I don't know, it's just a unique thing that I tried. I call a lot of these things experiments because I don't know really what the response to them will be, and I don't really know why I'm doing them necessarily. They're just kind of things to play with and to try. So it's fun for me. I like trying these new things. Okay. So that's about the content specifically. Someone was stepping outside. There's some mirrors and stuff behind me so I can see the world. What time am I at? 10 minutes. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the second part. These questions are about ASMR in general, less about my specific content. Okay, is there any way to download the audio for my videos? Good question. Here's the good answer. Absolutely, there is. I need to start putting this in my individual video descriptions because it would be easier for people to find. But in my channel description, if you go into my channel on the About page, there's a link to my Mediafire account, and in that you will find MP3 downloads of all of my videos, or at least all of them that I thought was worthy to put an MP3 of. And You can download them all for free and listen at your leisure on other devices and in other settings. So you can do that. If ever I upload, I've been kind of lazy about it before, so if there's ever a video that I've made and you can't find the MP3 there, just go ahead and throw up a comment or something and let me know that it's not there, and I'll get on it and actually put it there. Okay, what triggers do I dislike the most? There's nothing that I've come across that really deters me, necessarily. But that being said, I also don't really care for most sound videos, most sound effects and things. It's not that I dislike them, they don't do anything special for me, necessarily. And I've mentioned this before throughout my channel, that I can trigger my own ASMR quite easily, and so I don't need to watch videos and things to do it, and for that reason I don't watch a lot of ASMR at this time. But when I do watch ASMR, I tend to like the role plays, just of any various thing. There's not even a specific role play genre or category that I like. I just enjoy the whole idea of them, to be honest. What are my thoughts on ASMR? I kind of want to save a detailed version of this for as I get more into this book that I'm reading, because I have sort of the basis of a theory behind it that I would like to share with you guys and just kind of throw out to the world and see what comes back. I don't know. I have some shall we say, non-consensus thoughts about it, but I'm open to being wrong. I'm not saying that they'll be absolute, and I don't know what I'm doing, so it's more than likely that my thoughts and my theories will change and evolve as they get shared between people and new ideas come out. But I'm interested to see what comes out of that. So I'm going to I guess I'll give you the basics for now, just to kind of answer the question. I think ASMR is an energetic experience, and I think it has a lot to do with sensory gating, but I'm going to leave it at that for a little bit. I think my next video with book reading will have a lot more information about it, so just keep your eye out for that one. Keep your ears out, rather. What are some of your favorite experiences that I've had since creating this ASMR channel? I don't know that I could pick out specific experiences, but I'll tell you that when I started this channel, as I started to see it grow and expand, I started feeling this sense of guilt because whatever was going on in my life at the time, and I wasn't able to make this content for whatever reasons, but I was feeling this guilt, like people started to rely on me to have this content, and it was very disheartening. So not only does that kind of sabotage the process of making my videos, but when I did make them, I was very nervous, and I'd post them, and I still kind of do this, where I'll upload the video and then I'll quick close everything and like hide away for a day and come back the next day and see what happened since then. But every time I do that, I always come back to nothing but love and just positive gratitude from you guys, and that always warms my heart. It's always just so endearing to see people just being grateful and happy to see things from me, and to know that I'm affecting people in a positive way is it's very fulfilling, I'd say. So that's something that has been kind of a repeat theme throughout my channel, is just people's enthusiasm and support for what I'm sharing. It's a wonderful feeling, and thank you again. Could you show us how you make your ASMR audio? And I want to know what microphone you use. Well, I use the same microphone as most of the built channels, which is the 3DO. I don't have that fancy $2,000 one, don't worry. But I do have the standard one, and as far as making content, there's not a lot to tell you. It's not the most exciting process necessarily. I'd say that recording is actually my shortest step of the process. Generally when I record about 2 to 3 times as much source material as ends up in the final video. And I know some of my videos have ended up pretty short, but I assure you, that's not, like, I recorded much, much more than that. It's just I cut out a lot, and not as much, like, entire material. Like, I'm not cutting out entire sections of dialogue or anything, but I redo things a lot, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. So I just make it as high quality as I can. And so I finished recording, and after that I just sit at my computer in Audacity or whatever program I happen to be using, depending on the video. Mostly Audacity though, and I'll just sit through and edit things. It's really not an exciting thing. I have to wear headphones. Lots of times I close my eyes when I'm editing just to make sure that I'm getting the kind of getting the scope of emotion right, or however you want to say that. And a lot of the time spent editing is just proof listening to things. Like I will go through and I'll listen to the same audio all the way through at least 2 or 3 times before it's actually posted, just to make sure there's no errors, just to make sure there's no things that I could edit out, like a little clip or something. I have a really fine attention to detail, and that's something I think it doesn't go unnoticed though. People have commented and shared that they appreciate just how much work they know goes into my things, and that's nice because it does take a lot of work, but I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to make these things. It's fun and I enjoy to share them. What motivated and keeps motivating you to make these videos? There was a couple questions that were similar to this, so they're kind of going to get lumped into one, I think. I was started, I think, back in 2012 when I figured out about ASMR, when I learned that it was a thing and started watching the videos. I was feeling pretty inspired just in general, because I would see people do these things and be like, I could do that. I would do it this way, and then I could do this. Not trying to do it any better than they're doing, but just I know how my own style could play into it, I guess. I recognized that, and it made me really want to participate because I saw kind of how this community is, and I wanted to be a part of it. And I bought my microphone a long time before I actually started my channel, and it just kind of sat around. When I did start to get inspired and record things, I kind of went full force, and I had too many grandiose ideas that just were too daunting to actually finish. I did do a lot of things. There's some recordings I've made that you will never hear, and they will never see the light of day on the internet, just because they weren't to that level that I wanted to be at. And I had to relax a little bit before I had to relax almost entirely before I started posting anything. And I bet there was almost a year of period where I owned everything that I have now, and then I just hadn't posted anything just because of being too much of a perfectionist and being kind of a hard ass. But then I started, then I just relaxed. I was like, well, I'm never going to get anywhere at this rate, so might as well do something. And then I did. And I'm really happy just with kind of how it's been. It's been a pretty steady growth. It's been slow, and that's fine because I haven't done anything to promote my channel. I never tell people to subscribe or anything. Anyone that's here is because they want to be here, and that's the way I like it. But I'm very like, I don't do this on purpose. I just do it because I'm stubborn. But I don't really do thumbnails. I don't have things that draw people to my channel. Like for a long time I didn't really title my videos very well, and I still don't for the most part. But there's like nothing about my channel that lures people to it, I guess. And so I'm genuinely surprised too at just how many people are at it by now. But that's fine. I'm happy to I'm happy to have you guys, definitely. I always wonder how many more people would be here if I was making all these clickbait thumbnails and things, but I'm not gonna do that. What made you want to start making ASMR content? But that's pretty similar to the last question. Sound is just kind of my world. Like, usually people have a predominant sense that they are most good at, or they're most just familiar or comfortable with. For a lot of people, it's vision. Like, there's a lot of artists and things that they have that strong sense of inner vision. But I don't have that as much. I am very, very much based around sound in my world, and that's always kind of been the way that that's always been the way that it was for me. I'm very musical. I don't think you can see it in the camera. Let me see real quick. Oh, maybe you can see the corner of it. This is my piano. I've been playing the piano for a long, long time, and that inspired me, and I play a couple other instruments a little bit, and music's been a big part of my life, but also just sound in general. I have pretty good ears, not to brag, but I hear a lot. And so ASMR was something that I knew that I would be good at sharing with people, because I kind of have, I know how it works. Maybe not as mechanically. Like I said, I have my theories, but we'll go into that later. But I just kind of, I understand it. I get a good feeling for it. And so I go with it. What are your favorite ASMR triggers? Again, just to kind of reiterate really quickly, I don't watch a lot of ASMR these days myself, which is maybe kind of ironic, but I've never used it to go to sleep. I've never had like intense bouts of insomnia or anything. So that's never been a thing for me. But again, I like the role plays for the most part. There's no specific sound that I could say has been my thing, like my go-to source. Which ASMR artists do you listen to? I don't have, these days when I do listen to ASMR, I don't have, again, a go-to source. There's different ASMR artists that I like that I will go to for, I'll get in kind of a mode where I'll go to one specific artist or another for a little bit, and then I'll switch it up. But I really like to explore and to find new ones, and to see just kind of the whole gamut of people that are making content. And when I first discovered ASMR, I really liked Heather Feather, because everyone likes Heather Feather, and I was kind of a Heather Feather purist for a while, to be honest. Like I would just watch so many of her videos, and she was a huge inspiration for me to start creating my own videos, just because she's very creative, and she has a very good, she has a very likable personality, and it was easy for her to share these things and to share herself with people, and I really enjoyed that. So if Heather ever happens to come across this video, first of all, hey, second of all, thank you. Which ASMR artists inspire you? I like to be inspired by everyone to whatever degree. I like to see how every different artist creates their own video. Like, they have their own way of doing things and their own mannerisms, and everyone just brings something different to the table. And so I like to see how everyone does their own version of it and expresses themselves. And so, in other words, I just get something different from everyone, I guess. There's not a lot of ways to say that. How did you come across ASMR? I don't remember what I was searching or how I found it in the first place, but I remember the thing that sealed the deal, so to speak, was I came across a Vice article called ASMR, The Good Feeling No One Can Explain. And I link people to this article all the time if they don't know what ASMR is, because it's explained very well and very coherently, which is kind of amusing, because apparently the guy that wrote the article doesn't experience it himself. And ASMR has always been something that's been very much a part of my life ever since I was a child, as most people who experience it would agree or feel similarly about. So it's always been something that I knew about, and I thought that everyone experienced it. Like, I always just thought it was a thing that happened to people. But then when I found the article, I was like, oh, this is someone, like, we put a name to this now, okay. And I learned that I guess not everyone experiences this. And we'll get to more of that later. So maybe I'll put a link to that article in the description, if I remember. Probably won't remember though. What inspired you to start creating my own content? I talked enough about that. Okay. So that ends part 2, just about ASMR in general. We're gonna go through, I guess I don't want to cram so many of these things into a single segment of recording. Okay, but I'm gonna do this one since I'm not that far. Because this is just, these ones should be pretty quick. These are just general personal questions, really quick to rattle off answers to. What country do I live in? I live in the US of America. Do I know how to swim? No, I do not know how to swim. I do something that I like to call the art of keeping myself above water, but I don't know how to swim. So, what's your biggest fear? I don't have a lot of fears. Like, I definitely don't have any phobias, for sure. I've had phobias in the past, especially growing up. When I was a child, I was afraid of basically everything. But as I grew up, I just I developed this sense of interest in my fears. Like, if I was afraid of something, I got really curious. I wanted to understand it more. For instance, I'd never really been afraid of the dark necessarily, but I was afraid for a long time of pitch black. Like, if there was just a little tiny bit of light somewhere, it was fine. I wasn't really concerned about what was hiding in the shadows or whatever motivates people to be afraid of the dark. But if there was no light whatsoever, I'd get that anxiety and just start freaking out. But I started cave exploring, spelunking, and as you probably know, there's no light in caves in general, and so you have to be in the pitch black basically all the time, that you don't have any sort of light source that you bring. And doing that has totally changed my experience with pitch black, and now I quite like it. Whenever I do go into caves, I will generally, when I reach a breaking point, either at the end of the cave or just if I want to stop for a little bit, I'll just turn off my light and I'll just kind of sit in the darkness and just kind of be there. And it's very relaxing. It's totally comforting, and it's an environment unlike anywhere else you'll experience on the surface, because you just can't get that level of almost isolation. And that totally conquered my fear and kind of reversed it, actually. I don't know the phobia word for darkness, but I'm also say I'm like that, philic at this point. I haven't been in a cave in a while. I should go to the one that's here. I haven't been there yet. Okay. What do I look like? You know, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. I've never seen myself. All I've ever seen are these pieces of paper with replications of me on it, or I see this reflection in a mirror, and I've never actually been able to see myself, and don't think I ever will, but that's okay. So you have to answer that question for me. A lot of people don't seem to know that I've actually shown myself in the reveal roleplay. I guess it doesn't have a thumbnail of a picture of me, so it's not explicitly stated that I'll be in the video, but I thought it was implied, maybe. I know I look a lot different right now than I did back then. Mostly my hair's a little shorter, and I'm gonna get a haircut like tomorrow, I think. And I look a lot different with short hair, I think, but also I have this ugly mustache and whatever other facial hair. I'm kind of growing this mustache to freak out my family, to be honest. But a little, I don't know if self-conscious is the right word, but this is something that I've never done before, and I don't really know what I'm doing necessarily. So it's a very open in the air thing, but I almost considered shaving it just before I filmed this video, just because it makes me a little uncomfortable to be so uncertain of myself in front of people. But this is an exercise in my own growth also, just to be more comfortable around you guys. So we'll see how that goes. Feel free to tell me if you love it or hate it in the comments. I have a little bit of both probably myself, although my own semantics things, I don't hate anything. Any strange or interesting talents? I can sing overtones a little bit, which isn't hard. It isn't difficult at all, but people just don't do it. I'll do a tiny bit. That wasn't very good. Just like that. If you don't mind me asking, what's your sexual orientation? I am straight, heterosexual. Sorry guys. I kind of wish I was bisexual because it's more in line with how I see the world and people and how I imagine I would be, but I'm just not attracted to men, so it's not the thing. What's height and weight? I'm about 6 feet tall, and I range from 120 to 130 pounds. Where are you from? I was born in the state of Idaho, and I lived there for most of my life. We bounced around a little bit when I was very, very young, and I've lived in a couple other places pretty temporarily. Like right now I live in Arizona, but I've been here for about a year and a half almost. How old are you? What is your zodiac sign? I'm a 23-year-old Taurus. What is your major? I am not in college. I've never been in school beyond high school, and at this point I don't intend to do that. Are you an only child? I had a sister, but she passed away in 2011. I almost said 2012. Are you currently in a relationship? I am. I don't know how much more I should say about that. Do you own any pets? We have Kato, but I don't consider him mine because he's more of my enemy rather than my pet. Do you have any tattoos or piercings? I do not at the time. I've considered getting several tattoos. I have some ideas, things that I thought would be interesting, but at the moment I've never gotten anything done, and I don't know that I ever will, but it was fun to think about. Could you give us a brief history of Kato? I can show him to you. I don't really want to tell you all the dirty details of his life. Kato. This is Kato, the legendary cat demon, or whatever. I don't know if he's still visible if he's on my lap. Oh, almost. Of course he puts his head down when I move my legs up. For the most part, Kato and I don't really get along. We kind of butt heads all the time. But I do think it's funny that Kato grew up with a dog. We didn't have him since he was born. I think we got him when he was like about 1 year old, and he grew up with a dog for his early parts of his life, and so he's cool with dogs for the most part. And also he can kind of fetch, and it's it's kind of, it's just strange to see a cat like fetch, but he does it with bottle caps. And not even all bottle caps. There's like a certain kind of bottle cap that he seems to like more than others. But we can throw them or do whatever, just project them off in a direction, and he'll go and get them and he'll bring them back to you. And he loves to do it. It's like his thing. So that's kind of amusing. But I don't know. Still not a fan. Still not a fan of Kato. What are you doing? I'll let Kato be in here as long as he doesn't break anything. You're not allowed to chew on that cord. Okay. How many languages do you speak, and are you interested in learning any? I speak Esperanto actually quite. I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I'm quite comfortable in the language, and I've been learning it for maybe about a year, and I'll talk about that again in a little bit because someone asked about it. And also I'm getting better at English. Are you planning to move? No, because I already did. And I hope I don't have to move again soon, but maybe. We'll see. Can you tell us your social media accounts? No, because they don't exist. I don't really care for social media, and I don't know that I'll make some. Even if my channel starts to get big, it's just I'm not interested really. Do you watch anime? No. Do you know of K-pop? I know what it is. Do I listen to it? No. And I'm not trying to say these things are bad. Like, I'm answering these questions very quick, but I'm not trying to disrespect these things. I'm just, no, I don't. Pastel or neon colors? Pastel? Isn't that the guy that... There's Louis Pastel, and then there's... Is it pastel or pastel colors? I don't know how the A is said. I think neon, though, because I have this kind of obsession with things that are really bright and vibrant and stand out. So that's kind of fun. I like neon colors because they do that. They almost force your eyes to be like, whoa, what's going on here? Neon. Rain or sunshine? Definitely sunshine. That's also sort of my thing. Also, you can't live in Arizona if you don't like the heat and the sunshine, unless you're a masochist, because there's a lot of both of those things here. There's a lot of rain in the monsoons, but it's pretty fleeting. Favorite season? I like all... I like the seasons for what they represent, but I don't care for winter. Whose door was that? Was that ours? That wouldn't have been our door. I don't care for winter because I'm not much of a fan of cold necessarily, but I like what each of the seasons represent. Like, I like that summer's like the high point of life, the prime of being alive, and then fall is the process of death and dying, and winter is the desolation or the emptiness after death, or during it, however you want to say, and spring is the rebirth. So I like all of these things for what they stand for and what they represent, and each season kind of has its own particular beauties. But I don't care for winter that much. I will say that. You know, if I had to invite winter to a party, fine, I'd do it, but we wouldn't be talking much. What makes you nostalgic? I'm not necessarily sure I understand this question, but I'm going to do my best. I think, depending on the different stages of my life, different things kind of can remind me of those stages. Like, maybe I lived in a particular place. Like, I lived in Oregon for a little while, and sometimes I'll get like a certain smell, and it'll trigger these memories of living in Oregon and kind of that environment, where I was at the time, what sort of music I was listening to, just what my thoughts were, and it can really like put me in that exact frame of mind that I was in before. And that's always kind of interesting. It's very it's almost surreal when moments like that happen, because you're almost in two places at once. You'll be in your actual physical environment, but then in your head you're totally somewhere else. I've traveled quite a bit. I've been to lots of different areas within and without of me. So I have lots of different kind of zones of mind that will be brought up. Especially lately, as I've been really focused on detoxification and cleaning out my body, and I think it's a common experience, and it's happened to me too, that I'm getting a lot of childhood memories that come up. A lot of them are triggered by smell, but not all of them. But they're things that I haven't thought about since they happened when I was like very, very young. And it's, again, surreal is a very good word to apply to that. I'm not sure if I answered that question well, but I hope that's decent for you. What feature do you like most about yourself and why? I think probably my sense of optimism, kind of my cheeriness. Like, not to imply that I never get sad or I never have challenges, because I most certainly do. But in general, and quite overall, I'm a very happy person, very happy-go-lucky and cheery, and just very upbeat for the most part. And I enjoy that about myself, and in general, other people enjoy that about me as well. So it's always fun to share that with people. In a world where many get kind of discouraged by the state of things and what they consider their environment to be like, I like to be a good reminder that there's still some sunshine in the world. How does receiving compliments make you feel? Good? Is this a trick question? Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but I like compliments. Are you talking about like the sexual ones where people take it that route? They don't really, like, it doesn't bug me when people do that. I know there's kind of, I said in one of my other videos that it's a hot issue in the ASMR community, between the ASMR energy and the sexual translation of it, and whether that should or shouldn't be the case or whatever. And that really, I don't care about that, to be honest. People will translate it however they want, and it doesn't bug me. If someone wants to view me as attractive or sexual, that's fine. Like, they have that right, and it doesn't offend me if they want to do that. There's people say things to me that are sexual, and they're still flattering to whatever degree. I may not even care about hearing it or wanting it, but it's still a compliment in that nature, and compliments are nice, they're kind. I'm not justifying all sexual things that people say to ASMR artists, though. Sweet or savory? I have a penchant for sweets. I have a real big sweet tooth, and that's been pretty not the greatest thing for me in the past. I've eaten some bulk amounts of things that perhaps I'm not proud of, but it's good for the most part. Right now I'm eating a vegan diet, and that cuts out a lot of it. But there is a few things that I still like. I live very close to a Whole Foods. They have some good vegan stuff. There's a little bakery deli near me that makes some homemade vegan treats, and they are quite good. So I still have my sweets that I go to. Always be a fan of maple syrup and honey. That's my exception to the vegan rule, and I guess it's a controversy. I don't call myself a vegan, so I don't hold myself to vegan standards, but I do buy honey that's sourced well and that's as raw as I can get it, so that's a different thing too. Friendship or love? Can it be both? It can't be love and friendship? I'm going to say both, actually. But nice try. Imagination or logic? I'm assuming you're asking which one I prefer out of these. That's what I'm going to assume. Probably imagination for this one. Some people are, I'd say everyone is probably a free spirit, just technically, just by default. But I would say I'm pretty free-minded. My mind has very few tethers to it, I think. If my brain wants to take me off in a tangent that makes no sense, or to some magical fantasy world where the rules of this universe do not apply, that's fine. I don't stop it, and that's how I get a lot of interesting ideas per se. So I forgot where I was going with that, but I also do I do enjoy logic and logical thinking. It's an exercise that I think is very valuable, and it definitely has its merits, especially in the problem-solving realm, which I really enjoy. Recently, I'm picking up going into programming languages again, and if you can't think logically, you're never going to do a programming language. I don't know if calling it the epitome of logic is appropriate, but it's probably pretty close. So logic is fun. I like logic too, but for the most part, I'm a lot more abstract. What's your favorite season? I think that question was in there twice. When stressed, what would you say is the perfect way to unwind? Clockwise. But in seriousness, I don't know if I have something that would apply to everyone. I don't know if anyone could say that. But for me, if I'm ever feeling stressed out or bogged down, which is kind of rare to be that intense where I just need to do something to calm myself, if that was the case, I would probably just shut myself in a room, probably as dark as I can get it, and then just throw on some headphones and play some music that I like. Just kind of shut out the world. I think that's how I would unwind. And I've done that before. I do that sometimes just because I like it, but where is my favorite place to travel? I'd say Amsterdam was probably the most beautiful city that I've ever been in, but I had a terrible time in Amsterdam, so it's sort of this strange balance, or a strange superposition of like a good time and a bad time. The city itself was gorgeous, and I sort of want to go back, but the experience that I had there was just very unpleasant, and I don't want to talk about that now because it's a long story. What do I do for fun? I very much like to make things. I'm very creative, and I'm not very crafty creative. Like, I don't like to physically make things, I'm not very good at the visual arts, like drawing and painting and all those things. So I don't do a lot of that necessarily. But I do like to make music or sound-based things, like this channel, and I like to write things with words. And what else do I do? I picked up programming again lately. I just, basically, if I see someone else do something, I kind of wonder how I might do the same thing in my own way. And if it's something within my abilities, then generally I'll try to do it. A lot of people give me criticism for being very detached from the world. That's something a lot of people aren't. And by the world, I more mean culture. I'm very detached from culture in general. Like, I don't watch movies, I don't watch TV, I don't watch the news, I don't really follow politics or current events. I'm just kind of off in my own little bubble, and that's how I like it. A lot of people don't understand that, and I'm not asking you to, but that may come up again in these questions. Oh, and I really like to learn things too. That's something I've been doing a lot lately. I've been relearning math on Khan Academy. I relearned pre-algebra recently, and I'm going into algebra again. And these are things that I did learn in school, but I'm very rusty on them. And that was something, when I realized how rusty I was like, I'm gonna relearn this, and I'm gonna kind of just reassert my education. Because I do enjoy learning things, and growing in that manner. And I'm gonna go back to that in a minute. How you been? Fine, and you? What are the things that make you feel the happiest? It almost feels like a cliche answer to share, but definitely music, just because music is it's such a big part of who I am, with sound being the core of my world. Music is just kind of an extension of that. My world is almost musical. Even things that don't have music in them can be interpreted in that sense. And everything's just vibration, so everything's just music, to be poetic about reality. I do like some video games too, but this is something that I'm very, very picky about. And that's sort of the exception of my culture rule, but not entirely. Because one of the reasons why I shut out a lot of expressions of the world is because I really don't like violence. It's not that I'm anti-violence, because I feel like that defeats the purpose. But it's just not an expression that I'm interested in consuming. How about that? So many video games are just built on conflict and violence, and so I don't play the majority of things. If you see AAA titles or things that are just really popular, chances are, sometimes I know of them, but chances are I have never played them and don't intend to. This wasn't always my rule, so some of the older games I would know much more about, just because I was young and I was a teenager. But I really enjoy video games that will elicit some sort of emotional experience, or that will tell a story in a very emotion-driven and cinematic almost style. Because a video game is sort of just like an interactive film, to whatever degree you want to consider those terms. But I really like games that are based around exploration. Like, I'll always have a love in my heart for Minecraft, just because it's such an open-ended game. And I knew about Minecraft when it was in alpha. Like, it was sort of, I wouldn't call it my perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but just even as a young child, well, I was a teenager at that point, I think. But I saw when he was just going around and exploring these caves and things, and I was just like, oh my god, this looks like a great game, and I want to play this. And I did play it in its alpha when there was only the creative mode, and it's a lot different of a game now than it started out. But just games like that sort of thing. I think I'm very, very bad at favorites questions, but I think that I could say that my favorite game is Fez. And I know that there's a lot of controversy about Phil Fish, and I don't care. I don't think that reflects on his game, necessarily. He can be whatever kind of person he wants. The game that he made is fantastic, and I'm very disappointed that there probably won't be a sequel. Kind of just things that let my mind explore to different places, especially kind of crazy magical places that have little bases here. I enjoy the abstract quite a bit. Those are the things that make me happiest. If I were to write a book, what would I write about, and what genre do I think it would be? I've written a few short stories, and I'm open to sharing those if you guys have interest in them. I don't know if I ever have, I don't think attention span is the right way to say it, but if I ever have enough interest in actually composing an entire book. But short stories is a good medium for me, and I do enjoy that. Lately I was inspired by a book that I read to start writing again, and I don't know how long this one will end up being, so it could be actually a book. This one's pretty abstract, I'd say. And there's another question that'll relate to that, so I'll go back to that. But if I did write things, I like to write just an interesting story, something that you may not... I like to write things that'll kind of confuse you in a positive way. And I like to write things that surprise you. How about that? What's my favorite vacation place or activity? Um, I'm kind of a homebody, to be honest. I don't go out and do a whole lot, and I don't really care to. And then I'll explain more about this in a later question. And I don't know if you're talking about places. I don't have like a recurring vacation that I take every year or something. But places I would like to see, I would very much like to go to Australia. And I would like to go see Easter Island. I don't know why necessarily. It's always just kind of held an allure for me. So I'd like to go visit there. And then at some point in my life, I'd probably like to go to the Amazon. I'd really like to see a rainforest. I've been to the Olympia rainforest, I think, in Washington, very, very briefly. And that was... I don't think I saw enough of it to be satisfied. So I'd either have to go back there or down to the Amazon. And it'd be fun to go down and have like a traditional ayahuasca experience. That's kind of a thing now that people go do, which is kind of strange, but whatever. I think it's a positive thing that people can do. That would be fun. So those are some ideas for that. Are you in any type of fandoms? If so, which ones? I am not. And I kind of explained why. I don't think there's any more I could say about that, really. When was the last time you took a huge risk? Without going into too much detail, in 2012, I started traveling in my car, or just around a couple states, and I didn't make it too far before I came back, but that's a risk. People don't really do that. I was just sleeping in my car. I only slept in my car a little bit, but for the other days I was either couch surfing with people or I was just staying over at people's houses that I met along the way. And that was a very good adventure. It was, by all means, very, very fun and fulfilling. And that was... But I'd still say that would probably be considered a risk. But in 2014, I did like the next level of that. And I bought a one-way ticket to London and went there. And I had no intentions of coming back in the near future, at least not for a little bit. I wanted to backpack around Europe and just go explore. But then I hit some bummer luck and I ended up coming home a lot sooner than I expected. And that's part of the Amsterdam story. So, but again, I'm not going to tell that story right now. It's not merited. I keep losing my place. What's my favorite animal? I think humans. They're just so strange. What flower do you like? You know, I don't have a particular flower. I don't really buy flowers necessarily. I'm not saying I don't like them. Flowers are beautiful and they generally smell nice. And I can appreciate all of them for what they are. Plant genitals. But I don't know. I don't have like a particular flower that's my thing. So, sorry if that is unsatisfying. What is your favorite song right now and your favorite artist? I definitely don't have a favorite song. I don't really have a favorite artist, but I'll share one with you that generally I like most of his music. And it's the artist who did the soundtrack for Fez, and that's what introduced me to him, but he's done a lot of other soundtracks, and I just generally like his style of music and the vibe that his music can convey, and that is Disaster Piece, or Rich Vreeland is his real name, but don't look that up because that's not what his music's under. But I just really like his style. He's not the only one, but again, don't have really favorites. What color underwear are you wearing right now? White. Why is your voice so handsome and I'm gonna die? I don't know. I don't know why people like my voice so much necessarily. And I'm not really doing my soft-spoken voice right now. This is just kind of my general talking voice. And this is the lower range of my general talking voice. Sometimes I get a little excited and I go higher pitch, but this is more of the low stuff. I like to play with my voice a lot too, though. I like to. Some people have said like, "Oh, you should be a voice actor," and that would be a very enjoyable job. I would enjoy that quite a bit. I do a lot of things to just play with my voice, and I'm very experimental with my own vocal cords as well, which sounds kind of strange, but if you were around me for a week, you'd know what I meant. But I don't know what I would do. I don't know how to get work as a voice artist. Voiceover artist? I don't know. I don't know how to get that work, so I've never really looked into it. Also probably why I don't know how. Do you like to dance? You know, I really don't. And that's, people have given me a lot of flack for that, because I'll go to a music festival or something and I just won't really be dancing, and people criticize me. They're like, oh, I tell them I don't really like to dance, and they're like, oh, you just gotta let go, you just gotta get into it, just like go with the flow. And I understand that. I understand that dancing kind of puts people in a trance, and you just kind of let go and go with it, but that doesn't really happen to me. I seem to be always conscious of my body and how my body's moving and what I'm doing with it. And in general, if I let go of that, I don't know if I ever have let go of that actually, but I feel like it would be uncomfortable if I did. But I don't reach that point where I'm just without awareness of my body. And I have a very, very high degree of control of my body. I don't think it's a negative thing that I'm always so aware of it. But I just don't care to dance. I mean, I'll do little things, and it just doesn't really feel good to me, like particularly good. And that's just fine, this is who I am. But I could flip it around. I'm very comfortable sitting still and doing nothing. And especially if music is involved, I can just sit and listen to music and be content to just do absolutely nothing and hold really still. And I could approach someone and be like, dude, you just gotta get into the music, just go with the flow, just sit there and just get into it. Why do you have to move? But that'd be silly. I don't know what someone would say if I was doing that. What is your favorite SoundCloud or Spotify playlist? I don't have one. Most of the music that I listen to actively is saved on my hard drive, so I don't really need to stream anything. And I'm not on SoundCloud searching out new artists that much anymore. I've been pretty occupied with other things. Do I like giraffes? Absolutely, I do like giraffes. I do not own one, but I like them. What are your biggest insecurities? I'm a huge perfectionist, so lots of times when I make something, if I don't submit it, it's not that I think like I'm worried about, oh, what are you guys gonna think of me if I share this? Like, what are people gonna do? It's more just thinking like, I can do that better. I can do that better. And usually, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but I don't know if you'd consider that an insecurity. Some things, like, I would call myself a little insecure about this mustache, but it's just because it's something that I've never done before, and it's something that I don't know how to do necessarily. I like it because it's my natural appearance. Like, there is no effort required in doing this. There's less effort required because I'm not constantly shaving my head. And it kind of like, it does make me look a lot older than without it. And I like not being pegged as a 15-year-old again. That hasn't happened for a while, but it was happening long after I was 15. So I don't know if this is something that'll stick around or if it's something I'll get tired of and get rid of, because it's been pretty up and down with my opinion of it. But it's also kind of why I'm doing it, just to challenge myself and of being more comfortable being kind of uncertain of who I am. I've actually been going through a lot of this, really feeling more comfortable in expressing myself and who I am, and that's been really, really pleasant, to be honest. I've been really enjoying going through this journey, and this is just another part of it, really. Where am I? Oh, what annoys me about people, and this also Someone also asked what fascinates me most about the human mind, and the answer is very similar, so I lumped the questions together. And I would say that it's probably the human capacity for self-delusion. The idea that people will see what they want to see, or people will believe what they want to believe, despite any evidence to the contrary. And I'm by no means saying that I don't do this, or like I'm outside of this definition, because I very much do this. And I think everyone does, to some extent, in whatever realm. But I just think it's so amazing. I'm particularly fascinated when I notice examples of myself doing it. Like, I'll learn something and realize I've been doing something for the longest time when it's not something that I either want to be doing or it's not something that I think I should. I just recognize that I've been doing it and then why I've been justifying it in my head. And it baffles me. I'm like, how did I not see this? But I acknowledge that I didn't. So I think that it simultaneously fascinates me and annoys me that people have that capacity. And it's the same with other people. If you see someone else experiencing a problem or something that they could easily solve, if you're kind of watching from above and you know how they could solve this problem, but they're still, like, you see that they're not doing it, there's really no way that you can just tell them the answer and then they'll be able to figure it out. You have to, if you really want to teach, the best way to teach is to let them bring out the answer themselves through you asking useful questions. But if they're not ready to get the recognition, then there's nothing you can do, and that's fine. Everyone's on their own path, and I'm not in any authority to say they shouldn't be where they are, just as you aren't with me. So, there's your morality lesson of the day. It's a short one, I hope. What can you talk about endlessly if prompted? Probably altered states of consciousness. I think that's maybe open-ended enough to not go further with that right now. What's one time you have utterly failed and completely succeeded? That's kind of a tough one because it's all in the perspective of it. Because there's been times where I've not been able to do something, but then it leaves me open to figuring things out in better ways. Or here, how do we say it this way? We can say that success is as final of an ending as a failure is. Because success will close you off to any future possibilities, and really failure will open you up if you let it. Like if you fail at something, and then you close off, you decide that, oh, I'm not good at this, I don't want to do this, then it's kind of, you can make it the end of the story, but it's also a very opening experience. If you fail at something and say, okay, I wasn't able to do this, how could I do it differently? How could I do it better? And what am I not seeing? How can I better understand this? So both of the experiences are very, very useful. And it's all in the moment. I'm not sure that I could pick out a particular example of something I'd consider an utter failure or something an utter success. I could point out a lot of successes, but that's just because I like to view things as successes. If I could only eat one thing for the rest of my life, what would it be? Fruit. If I have to choose a specific one, probably grapes. I only eat organic grapes, and they're not always in season. They're in season right now, and I just had some today, actually. But I would choose fruit for both a biological reason and because fruit is sweet and it tastes good. So, fruit. Okay. So, everyone came home and I had to put off finishing the video until later, but I'm back and it's nighttime now. Where did I leave off? What do you think the world would be like if we perceived other humans through only their voices? I I think it depends on what you mean by that question. Like, if you mean that we only perceive someone literally only through hearing them, like we can't feel them, like we can't connect to them, it's only these abstract voices that we hear in our head of other people. Or if you just mean instead of being able to see them, I think we would still be judgmental creatures at the level we are right now. As it is right now, a lot of people's first impressions is based on appearances and image, and that's why we have such a huge focus in the world right now about how we look, because it's so concretely important in how we're perceived by others. But even if that wasn't the case, I think we would just replace that with being able to hear people and how their voices appear to us. So I don't think it would change the judgments. I don't think it would change the fact that we still judge each other. We just would judge different things about each other. So I don't think the world would be a lot different besides the whole not perceiving people in other ways. Do you ever overthink anything as far as deeper meanings behind stuff go? Is this a loaded question? It's like, do you ever maybe overthink things a little bit? Just a little bit, just maybe too much. Well, meaning is entirely relative. What something means to me is not going to be the same thing as what it means to you. Unless you're specifically referring to just overthinking anything, as in not being able to stop thinking, having too much mind, too much ego going on. And that happens from time to time, but it goes away for me. But ultimately, what things mean is entirely relative. So it's kind of hard for me to... I don't believe in absolutes. I absolutely don't believe in absolutes. So I like to think about things the way I do, and you're welcome to disagree, and I fully allow you that. I don't, for an instant, say that you need to believe what I believe. But maybe I'm reading into the question too much. Could be overthinking about that, actually. Why is 3 your favorite number? I like how it looks. I like how it sounds, the word. I like what it stands for numerologically. I do like numerology a lot, and 3 has some interesting meanings. Also, the number 9 is particularly attractive to me, and so 3 and 9 are very related. 9's like the 3 squared, and 9's just a cool number in itself, and I tie that to myself in other ways, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Do you know which Hogwarts house you are, and do you care? I read the first 4 Harry Potter books when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, long time ago. I think I saw the first movie, maybe, but after that, nothing, and I don't really remember the books, so I'm sorry, I don't remember. What do you do for a living, and is it what you want to be doing? I caption phone calls for a living, which sounds like an obscure random job. I do it for people that are hard of hearing, and it's just a service that I help provide. But I don't think I'd like to be at my job forever, but I do like it for now because it offers me an opportunity that I think many jobs just wouldn't. For example, the way I generally phrase it is it offers me a chance to better myself, because when I'm not on a call, we're allowed to do just other things on our computers, and so generally I will read things, or that's where I've learned Esperanto almost entirely at work, which is awesome. I've done some reading. I'm doing Khan Academy now. I learned the entire how to program in Ruby, the programming language. I learned that all at work. But I'm a little rusty on Ruby now. That's why I switched to Python, just to kind of get back into the groove of programming something. But I just like the ability to better myself at work. I also just read random books, is also ebooks, obviously, and actually physical books. And we can go on YouTube, so I can watch whatever. Someone recently introduced me to the channel Crash Course, and I still haven't watched anything by them, but I think at some point I will end up, because it seemed like they had some good material. Okay. How many kids would you like to have? It's not a set number. Nothing is set in stone, naturally. But I'm just, as a general rough outline of the future, maybe just a small family, 1 or 2. I don't want to be like a child hoarder, crazy kid dad instead of cat lady. Do I still walk, or do I still log to work? I do not log to work anymore, which is nice, actually. It's a little warm here. But I do bike to work, and I got a bike that's more than double my age. I think my bike was made in 1964, but it's still riding. His name's the Rusty Roller, Russell Theodore Roller. He's a good bike. Do you know that people with blue eyes are quiet at first, but once you get to know them, they never shut up? I think that's a specific instance of a generalized condition. Do I know Shane Dawson? I do not. I have no idea who that is. Most embarrassing moment you have had? I thought about this question a lot, because I'm really hard to embarrass now. Like, I'll do things that are silly and stupid and people will laugh at me, but you kind of learn to just stop caring at some point. I remember when I was like painfully shy when I was growing up. One of the shyest people I've ever encountered. Not the shyest, for sure, but I was so painfully shy. And I asked a girl out in the 6th grade, and it was kind of a challenge to myself. I was beginning the trend way back then, but I knew I was shy and I was so conflicted about it, so I was like, I'm just gonna ask this girl out. Like, I have to do it. I need to be brave. I gotta do it. And so at recess, earlier in the day, I told her, I was like, hey, can I talk to you at recess? And she's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, we'll talk. So we go to recess, and I ask her out, and she says, no, I already have a boyfriend, and that's fine. Like, if it ended there, that's great. It's like, okay, I'm happy. I'm proud of myself. I did something. It doesn't matter that she's not into me. Like, I'm in 6th grade. I don't need a girlfriend. But immediately after that, she, like, I'm not even exaggerating. Immediately, there was no gap in the middle of this. She turns and goes over to her friends and tells them what just happened, and then she goes over to other people and starts telling them. And so the whole recess, I had people coming up to me like, dude, did you just ask her out? Like, what the hell? In 6th grade language, whatever that is. And like, I was just so ashamed of myself, and just that so much attention was brought to it. It was like this personal thing that I went through, and if it was just me and her, like, that's cool, I'm good. But it wasn't just me and her. It was everyone in the 6th grade class. And I don't think people really cared after maybe a week or something, like 6th grade. But I think I vowed that day that if anyone ever asked me out and I said no, no one else would hear about it. It'd be our secret. But that never happened. But if it did, I would have saved that person. But since then, don't really get embarrassed. What scares you and why? I kind of went through this earlier. Fears just more interest me than anything else. If I'm afraid of something, I want to go into it. I used to be pretty just shy and self-conscious. I probably could say I used to be afraid of spiders, and I still don't really care for spiders. Like, by no means am I afraid of them. I'll let them crawl on me and do whatever. I don't care. But they're just, out of the creatures on the planet, spiders, they're not high on my list. What else was I afraid of? I was just a paranoid child. I was afraid of everything. I also don't do things that are designed to scare me, like watch horror movies or play horror games or whatever. Partially because most often they're violent and really disturbing, but also because those things are designed to scare you. I think at some point it stops being fear and starts just being surprise and shock. So it's just not a feeling or an emotion that I enjoy feeling, so I don't participate. Places to travel on my bucket list. I think I covered those earlier. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I covered those. Okay, cats or dogs, and why? Definitely dogs. I generally don't have a problem with cats. I don't really think that the domestication of animals is really a positive expression of just the way we do things. I don't think it's really good in the long run. But I understand that we're far enough down the road that we can't just shut it off like a switch. So, but if I had to pick between cats and dogs, 100%. My family had dogs, and I like dogs more. My family had a cat too. Its name was Blackie, and it would hide in the Christmas tree and launch itself out at us whenever we go by, and that's terrifying to a child. I'm surprised that didn't ruin Christmas for me. To be or not to be, always to be. That is the default. What is the first thing you do when you wake up? Sometimes I sun gaze. Lately I've been doing this app called Fabulous on my tablet, and it's sort of just a habit app to get me in the habit of doing whatever I want to set up to tell me to do. So I will wake up and I write down my dreams, and I get some water. I kind of prepare myself for the day, just kind of get in a positive mindset. I sit and breathe for a couple minutes, do some deep breathing, and then I do some stretching, and I think that's my morning routine. What is my ideal date? Human. I prefer human women. May change. I don't know. We'll see. Lots of people get this idea in their head that to have a good date, you have to be doing something. Like you have to have this certain activity, or you have to go out and eat at a certain restaurant or whatever. But I don't really feel that way. Especially with a lot of social activities like going and watching a movie. To me, that's one of the most just bizarre things you could go to try and get to know someone. And I don't feel like I have to be doing something with someone in order to get to know who they are. I would much rather be just sitting somewhere and having a conversation with them, or out doing some sort of adventure, just going on a hike, just something where we can kind of be active and working through something together, because I feel like that's a really open-ended way to see who someone is and to get to know someone at their core, which is what's important to me in any sort of relationship, not even just romance. Okay. Would you marry me? Try asking again. When do we run away together? That depends on where we're going. What is your favorite book? Again, favorite questions are hard, but I recently came across a book by my favorite author. I would say I have a favorite author, and that is Italo Calvino, who is an Italian author who died in like 1974, I think. He writes books that did things that I didn't know books could do, and that is one of my greatest joys, I think. That's really what inspired this story that I'm writing recently, but I don't know how far it's going to end up going, so I can't say much about it. But the one that inspired this book that is just such a pleasure for me to read is called Cosmic Comics. And the first book I read by Calvino was Invisible Cities, which is very, very imaginative, and by all means I adore that book. But I think the one that really has been blowing my mind is Cosmic Comics, and if you are intrigued by the sound of it, I would definitely recommend locating a copy. I think it has kind of a cult following. He has some other similar authors that kind of have the same sort of mind-expanding premise. Like, I don't know how to say his last name, and I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Borges, like Borges. He's very well known. What is my hobby? My favorite thing to do in my spare time is probably play music. I have been playing the piano since I was 5, and I'm not classically trained. I can't read sheet music, but I play by ear, and I just write my own stuff and just play the piano. And that's probably my favorite thing to do, just in my idle time. Either that or writing, if the inspiration finds me. If I'm not inspired, I don't like to write. I think if someone's not inspired, they don't like to do anything creative, probably. Um, have you ever been to Texas? When I was very, very young, I lived in Texas for like a year. I had to be between 1 and 3. I was very tiny. And I remember, actually, one of my most vivid memories as that small of a child is when we went to this cave in Texas. I don't remember what it's called. I don't remember where it was. If I asked my parents, they'd probably know. But it was a cave that we just went through, and I was just like enamored by seeing all these stalagmites and stalactites and just walking through this crazy cave environment. This is a child. It was amazing. It stayed with me. That's a memory of being that small that just never left. I don't have a lot of those. How's the weather today? It's very hot. It's been around like 105 to 107 lately. I like how weather's always a contest, so I might as well join it. But it's pretty hot here. I think Tucson's one of the hottest places in the country. It's not the hottest, so I can't claim that. Even just Phoenix, which is 2 hours away, is probably around 10 degrees hotter usually. So I think the hottest place in the country is this like Death Valley in California, but we're not far behind. Tucson's pretty hot. Are you for or against the Oxford comma? The assumption being, of course, you're being an English major. I'm not an English major. I'm not in college, as I said. As far as the Oxford comma goes, I'm probably indifferent. Sometimes I use it. I feel like using it gives it more of a professional or just a more polished or intelligent tone to it or vibe. But sometimes it can also seem the reverse. It can also seem more colloquial if you don't use it. So I do both. I'm not very strict about it. In a social setting, would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert? Now this is interesting because I am probably one of the most introverted people that I've ever met. However, I get pegged regularly as an extrovert because I am just exceedingly friendly. I will go out and I will meet people, and I have no issues at all, no bars from talking to strangers and introducing myself and just being completely friendly and open. But I am extremely introverted. I think the way that I described it to people is that I am unsocial. I'm not antisocial, and that suggests that I'm pushing it away. And I don't really do that. It's just very, very rarely do I seek opportunities and actions to be social intentionally. Most of the time I'm totally fine just being on my own, doing my own thing. If there's like a social event or something that's related to a topic or something that I've been learning about or researching, then by all means I'll go do that. That's fine. I'm very comfortable with being in front of people and talking and doing whatever. I don't have a lot of social anxieties. I've been in lots of situations where I've performed music too in front of decent crowds. Nothing like professional musicians maybe, but that doesn't deter me. I actually like being on stage and performing. I used to be kind of an attention whore in that way. Like I sought the attention, but that kind of went away. So I'm basically just a friendly introvert. What is my definition of love? This is another interesting thing because I've been thinking about this one for a long time. When I was a child, I would watch movies and it's just the standard plot line in a movie where a guy falls in love with a girl and they're so madly in love, like, oh, share all the sweet nothings such as like, oh, I love you so much, we'll be together forever, I'll never leave you, all these things. But then, the plot thickens, one of them messes up and all of a sudden they break up. Like, I never loved you. I was just saying those things. Like, and I realized as a child, like, that can't be love. That's not love. Love just can't go away like that. That doesn't make sense. And I think when I was 14, I decided that I wanted to try and figure out what love was, to define it in a concrete way. Because I don't think that love is romance. I think that love can contain romance, but they're not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. So the three things that I divided love into and this is my own definition, feel free to discard this if you so choose. I defined love as three things. The first thing being the knowledge of who someone is, or just the acknowledgement that they are an individual expression. The second thing is a respect for who they are, not desiring to change them to conform to your own desires or opinions or whatever, just acknowledging that they are who they are and that's okay, like you're okay with that. And then the third thing is a willingness to support their happiness if it is within the bounds of your integrity. And that's an important step. I think that total servitude, where you are completely abandoning your own sense of self in order to serve other people, I don't think that's really as useful. I'm all for expressions of love and serving other people and doing those sorts of things, but I think you need to attend to yourself primarily, both because you can't serve other people until your own needs are met, and also because it's just part of life. Like, I think you need to attend to yourself. That's why you're here. So that was my definition of love, and it's much more akin to familial love than romantic love most of the time. You can definitely have this sort of love in a romantic relationship, but this isn't romance. I draw a huge distinction between the terms, and the sort of love that I believe in is much more universal and much more something that you can share with everyone. And so naturally, yes, I have been in love many times, and I will continue to be in love many times. Falling in love every day in every way with my world and all those beautiful listeners in it. What is my favorite color? I'd probably say white. People argue with me that that's not a color, but I don't care. Some sort of configuration of light. White's like all the colors, so it represents unity and like being one, which is what unity means. And what are the other things that it represented? I forgot, but there are some cool ones, I assure you. Do you think you have an accent? Yeah, I mean, everyone has an accent. I'm like Northwestern American. The pretty Western Canadians sound a lot like this too, except there are some a little subtle differences and a couple that are fairly noticeable, but I like how Northwestern people speak. I feel like it's very clean English, and I don't mean to offend people that speak from other places, but it's I like the way I speak. I think that it's very useful too, speaking very clearly because of my job. We're taught to speak very clearly in order to work with the automated speech recognition software. And it's useful because I really am aware of how I say things. I was already aware of that to begin with on some degree, but now I'm like hyper aware because it's part of my job and my everyday dealings. So I don't do a lot of it in my videos though, because it's less natural. It doesn't feel like human communication, because it's really not, but it's kind of fun. And I think it does help if I'm trying to sound more well-spoken or more just clearer, really. Do you tell people about your channel? I tell people that become my friends. I don't generally tell random people or strangers unless ASMR ever happened to come up, which I don't think it ever has in just a random interaction. But most of the time, people that I tell either don't understand or they're kind of like, yeah, whatever, like, neat, and then they kind of back away and then never see me again. And that's fine. Talking on the phone or texting, it depends on what I'm doing. Some people are awkward on talking on the phone, but then other people can have phone conversations. I would much rather talk on the phone with my family because all of them live out of state, so I don't get to have full-on conversations with them unless I talk on the phone. So that's fine, and I enjoy that. Texting is good for making plans. I used to text like philosophical conversations with people, and we'd have multiple MMS messages of like solely text, and they'd be just these walls of things. But then people quickly get tired of typing so much. I didn't, because I like to write things. But so I got out of doing that. How do you feel about spiders? Kind of went over that. Do you take selfies? I do not take selfies. That's one of my personal vendettas that I will not participate in. I think I'll admit, I've taken 3 or 4 selfies throughout my lifetime probably, but they're for very specific reasons. And you're not going to get one out of me if you ask. They have to be motivated by me and whatever I happen to want from doing it. I don't like selfies. What are your views on politics? I was trying to think of a way to say it humorously, but I couldn't. I don't like politics. I try to stay as far away from it as I absolutely can, because it is just not my world. It is not something I want to be involved in. You can be involved with it if you want. It doesn't, I'm not offended by people wanting to do things or to have a conversation about it with me, but don't expect one, please. Because not only do I not have an opinion, but I will seek an out as soon as I can if that comes up. It's not my world. Death is a hunter, not unbeknownst to its prey. How do you picture death? What do you think happens in this state? Well, death isn't an entity, so you can't really picture death. I don't know, I guess you probably didn't mean that literally, but death is just a change of state, a point in a cycle of life that's very natural and just happens anyway. I've had moments where I've actually physically died, and I've had one of those moments, not more than one, and then I was revived. So I've actually died before, I can say that, and technically. And I've had other things where I've been close enough, but I'm not afraid of death. I probably was as a child, but it's after all these experiences that I've had, it doesn't faze me in the slightest. I have this level of comfort that I think is almost unnatural to have this when you're living. But death is very irrelevant when you're living. I don't think it's very useful to be so focused on dying and everything about what your death will entail when you are still alive. So I don't do that as much. As far as what I think will happen, I think it depends on what you believe, because I don't think there is a single one thing that can happen. Death is just a process of moving to a different realm of reality, really. A different state of, not a different state of matter, that doesn't make sense. A different state of consciousness, I guess. Still a little bit kind of just not good to put into words, but if you believe you're going to go to heaven, you'll probably go to heaven. If you believe you'll go to hell, you'll probably go to hell. I would hope that if you believe you're going to go to hell, you would convert to a religion or something just to save yourself that misery. But I don't think it's so. I don't think it's just one thing, and this is the way it is. It's life is infinite. Life is unlimited in that sense, and life is what you make it. Just because you die doesn't mean your life's gonna end. It'll just change. So you can look forward to that. One thing about yourself you would change if you could. Oh yeah, I forgot. I have another talent thing. It's not really a talent, but not everyone can do this, so I think it's cool. What would I change about myself if I could? Did I write anything down for that? I think I had an idea. I don't remember what it was, though. I'd probably be a little bit less of a perfectionist. I have a hard time sharing my creativity unless I think it's at the epitome, the peak of my level of quality that I could actually produce. And that's something that I'm going through a lot of right now. I have a website, actually, believe it or not. I bought this at the beginning of this year, and I've intended, maybe I bought it in March, but I've intended ever since I bought it to start recording some of the music that I've written and to start posting some of the things that I've written and all of these things. But I'm the writings I could post at any time, and that's not as important on my list. But I've been really trying to record these things, and I found it very challenging because as I just go through my day, I could sit and play the piano, and I could play these songs just flawlessly, just because they're so natural to me. It's just my music. But when I push that little button and then the recording comes on, or the recording light comes on, then I get unsettled. It's like all my previous practice is unstable, and I start getting nervous and I mess up. And I'm sure that's just practice, but it's disheartening, and I haven't practiced enough to be over it yet. So if you do happen to be interested in hearing some of the other creative things, I would appreciate some encouragement, just because maybe it'll help motivate me to actually share some of it. And some of you would like the things that I've written, most assuredly, because I am not a very intense musician. A lot of my songs would be very just relaxing music, and I like to write very songs with emotion, I guess, which to a degree everyone does, sort of. But I think it's funny. I've dabbled a tiny bit in making electronic music, and I was inspired by listening to other electronic music. But when I try to make it myself, the BPM just starts to go way down. And I've made things at like 60 BPM before, and that's like, you just it's so uncommon, I think. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just destined to relax people forever. Maybe that's just what I'm good at. I don't know. But yeah, that's something I might change. Best thing about having a YouTube channel, I think more than having the channel itself, it's being involved in such a loving and caring community as the ASMR community is. I am very humbled to be a part of it, and I very much enjoy my interactions that I have with people. I really like that there are some of you that have been there since almost the very, very beginning of my channel, and I've gotten to know you guys, most of you by name, and we have these conversations and exchanges, and it's always fun. I look forward when I post new things just to see what you think of them, and just to continue the dialogue, because I do enjoy discussing these things with you and listening to your suggestions. One thing I can't remember if I mentioned in this, it emails me every time someone posts a comment and it shows me at least the first part of their comment. So some people, they'll post a comment and then for whatever reason they'll delete it, and maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they don't feel like it was useful, whatever it may be. But I just want to let you know, I can see those. Like, if you delete a comment, it still goes to my email. And by all means, don't limit your expression because you're worried about what I may think or hurting my feelings or anything like that. I've seen some comments that were very positive, constructive criticism, just sharing what you thought could be improved about my audios or what you didn't happen to care for yourself, and that's totally fine. Like, I enjoy hearing that because it's just feedback. I'm not, even if you don't like something I did, that's fine. I get a lot of, not really negative comments, but I get a lot of confused, like, what is this sort of things on the 5 minutes of your licking one, with the parent that licks the child clean, and I made that with the intention of it being strange, and I knew it was going to kind of elicit those responses, but it doesn't deter me. I think strangeness is not necessary for ASMR, but I think it's useful for it because it drags you into the moment. You can't be somewhere else if something catches you off guard because it pulls you into where you are and what's going on. So I think you can just be sure that if something is said on my channel, it was almost definitely intentional. If you had a genie, what would your 3 wishes be? No duplicating wishes. This was a very, very difficult question for me. This was the one that I spent the most time trying to think about as I was just reading through my questions. I wrote them down because I wouldn't remember if I didn't. Okay, the first wish that I would not choose is more to have greater control over my state of consciousness. And I'm not saying I have no control over my state of consciousness, because we all do to whatever degree. But I would like more refined control. Like, for example, in the regards to lucid dreaming or astral travel, just some sort of astral body or out of body experience, whatever you want to refer to it as. I would like to be able to do those a little easier, to be able to kind of explore my own mind and maybe even go into a meditative state more easily. Just things like that. Just more of a control over where I'm at and what's going on in my head. Second thing, I'd like to be a little more estranged from the world and more self-reliant, more dependent on my own resources. And this is something that is a general life goal of mine, just to move myself to have my own shelter a little bit out of the way. I don't want to be off in the middle of some mountain somewhere, but I do want to be kind of tucked away in some nature, living off-grid, those sorts of things. I would love to have like an orchard. That would be just marvelous. And I don't know if that's ever, I mean, that's not a key component of my dream, but that, if that ever happened, like, it'd be wonderful. That's basically that one. I'm definitely not estranged from the world right now. I'm smack dab in the middle of a big city that I kind of want to get out of, but we'll see where I go. And the third thing was the hardest for me to come up with. Like the other two, it's fine. I had to think a little bit, but I could pick those ones out. But finding a third one was so hard. The third thing was, I decided the ability to pick up skills faster. Not to have a bunch of skills, because I enjoy the process of learning and discovery. I feel like that's just pleasant. Being surprised and learning things is a journey. Having just all the knowledge is not as fun. It's not an adventure of it. But I think it would be more fun, or useful at least, to be able to pick up the skills easier, to just be able to retain knowledge and just to kind of intake things and assimilate them in a more coherent and a more accessible way. I think that would be my third wish. So I hope you're happy. That was a tough question, but kudos to you for asking tough questions. What kind of music do you like? I like a lot of kinds of music. I can respect all music for what it is, but there are some some genres that I won't touch. Like, I won't touch country music. I'm sorry. My parents, that was all they listened to when I was a child. They burned me out on it from like day one. There might have been country music playing in the hospital I was born in, for all I know. It wouldn't surprise me though. Don't like country music. I don't listen to a lot of rap. I think people differentiate a lot between shallow rap and rap that has more of a storyline or meaning. I do enjoy some rap because I really like the power that it can have behind the words. I think the lyricism in rap can be very, very intimate, but also very, just very strong, very deep and powerful, and I really think that that's cool. And that might just be because, in general, raps can have more words than you might hear in a song with sung lyrics, because you can't sing. If every word in a rap had a pitch, like a melody line, that'd just be very unpleasant. It'd be not a fun song to listen to. As far as playing music goes, generally I only play acoustic music myself, just whatever I can manage to do myself. But as far as listening to music recreationally these days, it's kind of strange, but I've had this really deep predisposition towards electronic music for several years now. That's basically all I listen to on my own time. And I listen to a lot of different things, a lot of different genres of electronic music. I don't listen to party music or things that are very repetitive, like, I'm looking at you, trance, or house or whatever. There's a lot of those genres that are pretty similar. But I like things that are very dynamic and things that surprise me. I love it when a chord progression, because I'll be listening to music and I'll kind of just anticipate what chord's going to be next sometimes. And with popular music, a lot of the times that's very easy to do, and that's okay. But I love it when I expect a chord in a song and then something totally different plays and it throws me off whack, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. and then I download the song even if I don't like it. I don't know if they're home. Dogs are barking. So I like very dynamic things. I like a lot of just music that's interesting. Particularly maybe glitch music, or sometimes psytrance can be fun. Like Spangle is probably, I call Spangle my spirit band, for unbeknownst reasons to the public, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do those things anymore, but I did. And I still love Spangle. Spangle's an awesome band. And a fun word to say. Do you draw or paint? Visual arts are not my forte. I can draw and do a decent job at it if I spend a lot of time and energy and effort. But as it goes right now, I have so many active pursuits that I won't dedicate that time to it. I don't think I've ever really painted. Have you seen any Korean dramas? I have not. I don't really watch English dramas, so Korean's quite a bit farther down the list. I'd probably watch an Esperanto drama though, just to get better at the language. What goal do you have for the next few years? I would really like to start sharing more of my creative work, to start not necessarily building a following, just to get it out there, just to kind of build this channel for me to continually express myself and to share these things that I make, because I have a lot of content that just over the years of my life that I've made that I want to share with people, not even to get money. I think the intention for most of my music, it was just to put it up on Bandcamp for a pay what you want price, which means that people can download it for free if they choose to, and that's fine. But if you feel like it's worth something to you or it's useful, then you're allowed to donate money, but however much you feel. And so it's kind of a win-win for both the artist and the consumer, the listener. So I've considered also doing something like that, making an album. I think Springbok ASMR, she made an ASMR album of different things. I don't remember what was in it because I never really looked into it. But I know that she did do that, and I thought about doing something like that. Just rolling around ideas in my head of various things. And, you know, if you think that's a good idea, I'm open to hearing it. I'm definitely open to suggestions. But that's my biggest goal over the next few years. If I manage to, in the meantime, kind of make some money and start to be able to move myself, to isolate myself a little more, that would be splendid. It's kind of a strange thing to admit to people, like, yeah, I just want to go away from the world. I just want to hide. I'm sort of a recluse though. And I'm a balance of it. Like, I'm not afraid of the world. I don't have any problem being around people. Although if I'm in huge crowds for long periods of time, like in the crowds, if I'm performing or something, it's different. But if I'm in a large group of people for a long time, then I can't really endure that, I guess. Not because I start getting nervous or freaking out, I just get tired and want to leave. I don't think I could ever live in like a really big city, like a really dense populated place, New York City, things like that. Couldn't do that. But I'm comfortable with people. I love people. People are great. Just, I'd rather be alone most of the time. Did you know that I'm 11 and I still watch stuff I probably shouldn't? Well, I didn't know that. Actually, I knew you were 11 because you've told me that before. Or told someone in my channel. My advice to you is, if you watch things you probably shouldn't, I would ask you to prepare for results that you probably wouldn't enjoy. So, be careful of that. And then the final question on this list is the final ones in this part, is a bunch of 6s. And to that, I would say your 9s are upside down. Let's fix that. Okay, final segment. Saved the most difficult questions for last. Oops, I didn't mean to scroll up. Okay. Is Ray my real name? No. Do you play any instruments? I play the piano. I mentioned I played the piano since I was 5. I also play the guitar, and I'm very, very rusty at guitar. I don't play it that often these days, but I still can. And guitar is the instrument that I've sang the most with just throughout my singing career, if you want to say that. I also play the ukulele, but I just jam on the ukulele. I don't know, like, I know the chord shapes and kind of, in general, just how to jam on it, but I don't know, they're like 5 steps up from the guitar chord shapes, so I never really memorized which ones are actually which chord, but I just jam on it. I write little ditties and tunes, and I can sing very few songs on it, but a couple of them. Next question, are you a good singer? I don't know, you'll have to tell me. So, where did I put that? Oh, right here. Yeah, right there. No, wait, just kidding, it was here. That's, if you click here, you can see an example of me singing. And you can tell me if it's good. How about that? How about I don't tell you? One thing I want to mention too, just a random bit about my channel. I use Firefox as my internet browser, and maybe this won't be as significant if you're browsing from a phone or something, but I use Firefox when I'm using it, and I have this extension called Stylish, where you can download different styles for various popular websites, and it changes the appearance of the website. And I use one for YouTube called like Black YouTube or something like that, and it just makes the background black instead of white, and basically everything's darker. And it goes really well with my channel. Whenever I'm on the regular white YouTube and I see that with my channel, it clashes quite a bit. I forget that other people don't see YouTube the way that I do, but if you always complain, you're like, oh, I wish my YouTube wasn't so glaringly bright and could be darker, you know, there's an idea for you. And other than that, I think I answered all my questions. If you remember asking a question that I didn't address, or I didn't address it the way you wanted me to, feel free to post it in the comments here and I'll get back to it. And other than that, I just want to thank you guys so much for being a part of my channel and just being here with me and sharing these experiences and dialogues. And I'm always very happy to share myself with you and to have you share yourself with me. So thank you very much. And I hope you all have a fabulous night.